It's finally time for an update on the Glock 43X build. I'm going to start off by saying this video is not for everyone. I'm going to be going into as much detail as possible in regards to the customer service and issues I was having with Zaffiri Precision. Now, I really did not want to make this video, but there were so many people involved with making this build a reality that it's simply not fair for me to give those people an update in regards to what has been happening and why the series hasn't really continued. Now, again, I know this video is not going to be for everyone, but I want to give as an open and honest just feedback in regards to what I was dealing with the slide that I got from Zaffiri Precision, as well as the backend customer service that I was dealing with that now has me at this point. Now, to back up a little bit, I was going to be doing a Glock 43X build. The frame was going to be on a Glock 48, and you're able to take a Glock 43X slide, barrel, and full assembly, and be able to build out like different kind of styles of firearm. Now, the idea behind this was, would I be able to take kind of a concealed carry firearm and build it out that it's almost able to be used for, besides for concealed carry, also competition. It's kind of fun. It was kind of exciting. I got compensators, I got sights, I got the full loadout, and the build was costing me a little over 600 bucks. That is not cheap. So for the parts that I was getting, I was really hoping that I'd be getting quality parts that would be able to be put together, make this a very simple, straightforward build that you guys could also be able to replicate if that's something you wanted to do, and see if we were able to make it happen. The heart of this build was going to be a slide that I got from Zaffiri Precision. It was a slide, barrel, internal parts, and like the sights and everything included. And from the get-go, I was running into issues, and it's really important that when you get something from the factory, more likely than not, it's going to be you that's the issue. Meaning, I was assuming that it was maybe the incorrect ammunition. It might have been the incorrect break-in process, whatever it might have been. Generally speaking, it's usually user error. So I was spending hundreds of dollars trying to determine what the problems were and figuring out different solutions to see if that ultimately was the issue, or ultimately if it was the slide that was actually the problem. So we're going to go through the whole story. Again, might be boring to some of you, but this is going to be an update for those who were following along in the series, and maybe a warning in regards to where you might end up getting parts for the future to make sure you're using your money and it's being spent correctly. So in around March time, I was able to pick up a slide from Zaffiri Precision. It was like the ZP3, I believe, which means that there were 3 ports on, like 3 window cuts on the slide. It came with sights, it came with internal parts, really nicely finished. Very well designed slide, really liked it. There were a few like small critiques I made about it, like aesthetically, but ultimately, which like what I mentioned in the previous videos during the series, is that as long as it runs, that's really what's most important. It's not really going to be only about aesthetics. So from the get-go, I was running into issues. So I think the first issue that I posted on Instagram that you were able to see was under recoil, the fiber optic just blew out of the front of the fiber optic, and like it was not a functional front sight anymore, which although can be pretty common with fiber optic sights, it showed that when I was looking at it, the fiber optic was cut just slightly short, which would make it much more highly likely to be able to have that kind of issue than if it was cut correctly. I would say in this case, it was manufacturer error where the fiber optic was a little bit too short, which ultimately caused that to be a malfunction. No problem. These things happen. Not a big deal. I reached out to Zaffiri Precision. I said, hey, this is what happened. They said, no worries. We could send you out a different fiber optic. Reach out to us and we could deal with that. Cool. That's all good. During this process, though, I was also having a lot of malfunctions with the firearm itself. Now, initially, again, it's good to assume that it could be based on the break-in period. So when I was firing and dealing with it, there were issues, but again, it could be something that could be assumed to be broken out of and fine-tuned once you fire a bit of rounds through the gun. I also ended up adding a compensator, which also added many variables, because compensators are known to be able to cause cycling issues if you're using the incorrect spring weight or the incorrect ammunition that could help it cycle correctly. So that was another variable that we were dealing with when trying to determine what the problems were. Now, what ultimately ended up happening is I shot close to 500, probably more, but I'm going to say 500 to be conservative about it. 500 rounds of ammunition of different types. I shot 115 grain brass case, 124 grain brass case. I shot 115 grain steel case, 115 grain zinc cased. I tried a bunch of different ammunition. I also shot a bunch of defensive rounds, including Hornady ammunition and things like that. And no matter the ammunition that I was cycling through it, I was having issues. I ended up reaching out to another Instagrammer who's very knowledgeable with Zaffiri products, as well as uses a lot of their stuff and runs comps on the guns that he runs. I assumed it was the compensator. I'm sure the slide is not the problem. It's probably the compensator combination with the slide that I was using. So let me reach out to him and see what he tells me. He recommended a spring that was going to be able to work with the slide and compensator that I was using. And he said that it works with him flawlessly and he never had an issue with that setup. So cool. So now I have a compensator. I have the upgraded spring, started running more ammunition, more issues. I was not able to get the gun to run reliably, which means definitely not for self-defense use. I would not be able to run this. Definitely not for competition use, because that could still give me a bunch of issues that I don't want to deal with during a competition. So what then happened was that I reached out to another friend of mine because, again, at this point, I'm still assuming that it's me or something that I'm not doing correctly with this setup that I'm using. So I reached out to my friend Hoodlum's Gun Bench. He's a YouTuber as well, Instagrammer as well, very knowledgeable in firearms and firearms assemblies and mechanics. And I asked him, I said, could you take a look at it? Because I can't figure this out. I shipped it to him. Again, this is all costing me more money because I'm assuming it's still me being the problem. Sent it out to him. I'm like, I can't figure this out. He shot over 500 rounds of ammunition of many different types. I'm going to read out exactly what he sent me in regards to his testing so you guys can see what he did, so you guys really understand how much effort we were putting in to make sure that this was functioning correctly. So I'm going to read it out as it is. 100 rounds of 124 grain S&B, at least 3 to 4 failures per magazine, would not fail and failures to extract. 200 rounds, 115 grain, stand one armory, multiple failures. After taking off the comp, so again, we were trying with and without the comp, 100 rounds of 115 grain stand one ammunition, 100 rounds of 124 grain S&B round nose, various 115 and 124 grain defensive loads like Hornady FTX, 115 grain and Federal Punch 124 grain, all consistent jams. Then tried 20 rounds of Federal Premium HST, could not get it to cycle more than one round. If it can't cycle defensive loads, it's not carry worthy in my opinion. Now, remember, we were trying every variation of how this could work. So we took out the barrel and we used a different barrel. The slide still malfunctioned. We tried a different slide using the Zaffiri barrel. It still malfunctioned. We tried different frames. We tried different spring weights. We tried different ammunition. We tried every single variable to see if it was us that was the problem. Only after all of this did we decide that we were going to reach out to Zaffiri Precision and let them know that we're having an issue. So now I'm going to go through the emails just as they are and let you understand, and I'll try to give you as much context as possible to see how things played out. So this was the first email I sent them. I said, good afternoon. I ordered a Glock 43X slide kit a little over 2 months ago, and I've been running into issues. I can't get the slide to cycle or feed efficiently. I sent it to a Glock armorer, and he recommended I reach out. He can't determine exactly what the issue is, but we've tried different ammunition weights and casings, different frames, different recoil springs, and it's not working. Is there anything we can do about this? Kind of keeping it open-ended. I want to see if there's anything I can do. Maybe there's still something wrong on my end. We are sorry to hear you're running into feeding and extracting issues with your upper. Could you send us a photo or short video of the issue you're experiencing so we can better help serve you? We are sorry for the inconvenience this has caused. Cool, not a problem. I only have a few videos, but the files are too large to send over email. I could recreate the malfunctions with images, but it's generally stovepipes and failures to feed. Pretty common for regards to cycling issues. We tried a different barrel and slide and a different slide and barrel and still had issues. Would there be a better place we could send videos? If you could provide some photos of the product, that will suffice. It sounds like you need to come back to get it checked out. So at this point, they're saying that usually, which a lot of companies do, they'll just have it sent back to see what the problem was on the slide issue, if there's something more that they have to deal with. So I sent over a bunch of photos. We sent over as many angles as we can of the barrel itself, the slide itself, the wear and tear on the different areas of the barrel to kind of give them a better idea. They said, thank you for the photos. I've gone ahead and attached a return label to this email. So they said, cool, we're going to have it sent back over to ship it out. A little bit of a jump because work got really busy. I ended up sending it back and it said, I got an email back from them. So the last email I sent was on May 16th. And this is on June 6th after they received it already. And they said, we have finished the warranty of your upper and we will send it back to you tomorrow. We uninstalled the agency compensator as it is not our product and the upper ran perfectly fine. I noticed in this email chain you have not mentioned the compensator, and in the photos you did not include the compensator as well. If you are experiencing cycling issues with a compensator, then you are likely need to find a different weight guide rod. We've decided to send you an upgraded guide rod as it should work better with the compensator. Super nice of them, by the way. Good afternoon, I appreciate you taking a look at the upper. We tried it in many configurations, including with a comp and with a few guide rod weights. I also swapped barrels, slides, ammunition weights, and frames and still seem to be running into issues. I'm very confident it isn't an issue with the comp alone. Of course, I'm going to give it another try with the guide rod you provided, which is greatly appreciated. Would you be able to let me know which ammunition and weight you are running? I'd love to have it function flawlessly. So they said that they tested it and there wasn't any issue. I said, cool, maybe there's an ammunition that they're using that I'm not aware of that maybe would work specifically for this frame, slide, and barrel combination. And if they have that, I'd love to be able to try that. Their response was, we hand cycled the upper. we hand cycled the upper. We shot close, if not more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and their testing process was to hand cycle it to make sure that it functioned. That's just disappointing because, again, I spent hundreds of dollars, not just with shipping to multiple different people for them to be able to get examined, not just to an armorer, not just different spring weights that I was purchasing, assuming that could have been the problem, but to hand cycle it as the full thing. That just seems messed up to me. We experienced no issues hand cycling. You need to find an adjustable weight guide rod so you can find the correct weight to get the comp to cycle with the upper that you have. If the comp is the issue in that case, and it was hand cycling flawlessly, you wouldn't be able to tell that by hand cycling because the comp would have been the issue in regards to how much pressure is being sent out for the gun to cycle. So a hand cycle, I don't think would be able to determine that. So to follow up again, I wrote, again, I mean this with no disrespect. I did run it a lot without a comp. I ran into the same test with different guide rod weights, both with and without the comp. Is there anything else that could be the issue? Because I really don't think that was the problem. Raziel, we'll be test firing it later today. We will get back to you once we get the results. Cool. After that, I said this was a pause from the week before. So it was Wednesday, June 7th. Sunday, June 11th, I reached out to them because I didn't hear a response. I said, good evening. I just want to follow up with the testings you guys performed last week. I greatly appreciate the time you're putting into this. Raziel, we are sorry for the delay in this. The person who handles the testing he had complications. It wasn't available. No worries. I'm going to keep skipping ahead. I hope it's not too much of a bother. I have a few brands waiting on me to continue with this project. Do you have any update? This is on Wednesday, June 14th. So the last time they said the person wasn't available was June 12th. June 14th, I reached out for an update. They said, we didn't have an opportunity to cycle yet. We'll get back to you. Then June 20th, good evening. I received a package in the mail from you guys and it did not have any information. Was there any issues during the live fire? Is this a new slide? Anything else I should be aware of? So I came back from a work trip and a new slide was in the mail. That's all I got, meaning I didn't get information. Yes, there was a slide problem. There was an ammunition problem. The compensator was an issue. I just got a new slide in the mail with no updates from them in regards to what the problem was. Again, this was super annoying to me because I was putting in a lot of effort to try to make sure that this was working well. I want updates. With the amount of money I spent and the amount of time I put into it, I would like to know what the issues are. If there was an issue on my end, cool, let me know. So then in the future, when I'm working with your products or other products, I can be aware that this is a problem I need to be aware of. Again, maybe it's on me. So that's the email I sent to them. They wrote back, we replaced your entire upper. You should be good to go. Just make sure you follow the break-in process for the upper. We're sorry for the inconvenience that they caused. Just make sure you follow the break-in process for the upper. So it was my fault. There was a break-in process that I wasn't following correctly that may be different than other brands, okay? So you have a break-in process, make sure to follow it, okay? Maybe it was my fault. Did the upper that I sent over malfunction? What ended up being the issue? Also, could you guide me on where I can find the recommended break-in process for your slides? Again, maybe it was me, right? Their last email was, the slide was slightly out of spec, which is what was causing your jamming and cycling issues. You just want to make sure that the barrel and slide are lubed heavily for the first 300 to 400 rounds. These are brand new products that have not been mated together quite yet. So lube will reduce the friction, which would be a common reason why you can run into cycling issues. We are sorry for the inconvenience that this has caused. So you're telling me that I potentially was doing the break-in process incorrectly, but ultimately what the problem was that the slide was out of spec. So the over 1,000 rounds that I put through this firearm was still somehow my fault. So I'm going to reach out to them and ask them to see if I'm able to just send it back and ask for a refund. Not because of just the customer service issue that I feel like this, maybe I'm overacting. You guys comment in the comment section below, like what you think you would have responded or how you would have dealt with this differently. I feel like I was being as professional as possible. I was trying to figure out the issues that I was having, and it wasn't really a two-way street. Now, besides for the issue with customer service, which I'll put aside, if a product is out of spec, but it would take me this long to find out that that was the issue while being blamed throughout the process, and they could have just said, we're sorry, this happens every now and then. There was a problem with our manufacturing line and the gun, the firearm that we sent you was a little bit out of spec. Our bad, here's a new one. Cool, I'll take that as an excuse. And I would for sure continue to run it because that sounds fair. But to go in such a discreet way of trying to avoid the questions until the questions are very carefully asked in a way that you're getting the answer that you need, only to find out that the item was out of spec. And after it being found out it's out of spec, you're still kind of underhandedly being told that you didn't do the break-in process correctly, which could have been the issue that's been causing issues. That's a bit rough. I'd love to get you guys feedback in the comment section below. I really hope that I could try to figure out a resolution to the slide and hopefully I could get a refund for this and start a new project. But if you guys have any feedback, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. And I really hope that we end up getting a positive resolution. I'm not looking for confrontation. I just want to be able to make sure that if I spent the amount of money that I did on a project, that at least there would be some transparency and a proper guidance in regards to issues that might have happened and how I could have been doing them better in the future. This is Raziel Cohen with ndftraining.com. Thank you for watching.